props to Solomon. Dude was laying down that onyx up in that Sheba. So this chapter of Magi, a lot of things going on within it. If you gotta, pay attention and whatnot. And a huge revelation, of course, towards the end of the chapter. But a lot of things to discuss at the same point with some of the events within this one. So before we jump into any of that, with the revelation of Sheba being pregnant, obviously that child is, at the end, Aladdin. Come on, unless Shinobu was totally trolling us, that is Aladdin, clearly. I was thinking to myself, and I came up with a crazy theory, and I want to see what you guys think about this. What if Sheba, since she put that spell on Aladdin, or on the pregnancy, shall I say, to slow it down, what if when she goes into the battle, the final battle, because remember that's approaching, the final battle with Elder David, which that was very good progression, that it was noted that we're finally going to the final battle with the Orthodox magicians. They go into the final battle. Maybe Sheba will lose the baby in the process. Maybe whatever will happen, maybe David will stab her right through the stomach and she'll lose the pregnancy. She'll have a miscarriage. That seems a lot better for a reason to become Gyokuen and fall into depravity than losing Solomon to Arba. It seems like it might be that way. What if that's what makes her finally fall into depravity? She loses the baby and ultimately falls into depravity, but because obviously Aladdin's alive, how did that happen? Ugo, huge scientist, knows everything. What if he was able to afterward salvage the baby and it just took longer for the baby to become older to the point where it's actually a baby, and it was for a long time that he had to do things in order to make Aladdin progress into becoming an actual baby and go from just like a small fetus, and maybe that's what ultimately made her fall into depravity to the point where she was just like either on the sidelines struggling to cope with the fact that her baby is going through all this and she had a miscarriage and she thought that she lost it to begin with, and she just went into complete hatred. Now that makes me wonder, if Gyokuen is indeed Sheba and that's what made her fall into depravity, betray Solomon and everything that she did, then why doesn't she address Aladdin as her son when we see in the present timeline during the war, the Magna Star, when she said, fellow Magi from Almataran, why didn't she address him if that's indeed Sheba? So that got me curious. That could be a huge theory. One of the reasons why or the main reason why she falls into depravity, a miscarriage. And ultimately Ugo was able to salvage Aladdin and eventually grow him into the being that we know today. And that'll explain why he has a mother and father, but also they said the proxy, Solomon's proxy at the same time, because maybe there was artificial ways that they had to use magic and all sorts of different things in order to salvage his life. Now another huge thing we find out is that Ugo discovered Rukh in this chapter. Now I wouldn't be surprised if again already Elder David knew about Rukh, so he wasn't the first one to discover it. I believe Elder David already knew about Rukh, but the interesting thing is you see the Rukh that he discovered and he's pretty much saying that this is the life force and whether we could change things, and it also makes sense the way Ugo was describing Rukh and the flow of everything and how it could sway the future in one way or another, stuff like that. Remember a couple different times in the present timeline it has been said that Solomon's Rukh, the path that he set out is being corrupted and whatnot. What if that's the whole thing of the Rukh and that's what Ugo discovered? Now the Rukh was black that he had. I'm curious, whose Rukh is that? Has Solomon already fallen into depravity? Was it Arba? Who could have been? And because at the end of the day, Rukh is supposed to be, white, is supposed to be bright and looking shining and whatnot. And if he found black Rukh, world at this point is going to shit, even without the Orthodox magicians. And that kind of is a statement, I feel, with humanity in general. We can be the best of friends. We will be comrades, just indulging camaraderie when we're under times of stress, when we're being attacked. But the moment we're in times of peace, that's when everyone starts to fight each other and we get a mind of just, well, what do we do next? Where do we go from here? And that just, I thought, was a huge testament to our society in general. I mean, at the end of the day, we don't have Orthodox magicians enslaving us. And look, there's still wars and whatnot. So I definitely feel that was a huge statement on just society in general and humanity and how we are. Like, maybe there was a reason why Eli, ultimately took a while to do things and finally gave it to humans. And maybe that was a big mistake in a way, because look what humans are doing now. They're fighting amongst each other, even through times of, just peace, pretty much, because the Orthodox magicians are running so low. We're going into the final battle with them. So definitely a very interesting statement right there. I will say this chapter was very dialogue heavy, a lot of stuff. Some of it felt like, okay, it's very detailed explanations that we don't need this much detail, and that's Shinobu Otaka loves to do that. it's not a flaw because it's not like it's ruining the story or anything, but it does feel a bit overwhelming. I've said this in the past and I'll say it again. Also, the whole thing with Solomon, at first I was getting to dislike it. The whole fact of him just kind of feeling like just down. He doesn't want to be this Messiah. He doesn't want to be like his father. We know, based on, you know, later on in the future, he does become King Solomon, the god that everyone worships and loves and whatnot. So he ultimately will accept that role. Would that be him falling into depravity as well? Because we can't rule out the possibility that maybe Solomon fell as well. We see that he is clearly not 100% perfect, and I think some people are disliking that. They're saying he's whiny and whatnot, but I'd rather see somebody that was human at one point and really, you know, was just down to earth and ultimately be forced into that role. Solomon is not a perfect being. And if anything, an imperfect being makes for a perfect being because he knows the sorrows that you can have in life. He knows the qualities. He knows everything. And I think that that's a much better thing and a much better, well-rounded character in general than he was just perfect. He never had a worry in the world. That would kind of just be lame and boring. So I like that Solomon has these internal conflicts. It makes him for a more well-rounded character and a more interesting and diverse character nonetheless. I truly think him going through these struggles, while sometimes it definitely feels, again, overwhelming. Like, okay, we get it, Solomon. You don't want to assume this role, but you ultimately will. It's necessary, and it gives him it makes for a better character, in my opinion. He will become the god and king that people will know and love, but ultimately right now, this is his origins. This is where it all started. And a lot of things make sense with him entrusting Ugo to be the jinn that, you know, guides Aladdin through the world, and having him trust him ultimately to do everything that he does in the series, because you see in this one, Ugo, pretty much, he will do anything for Solomon, like, because Solomon saved him when he was just like a recluse, had nobody, nothing. Solomon was the one that was there and was his friend. And that's what Ugo appreciates, and he always looks back, and that's why he feels like, damn, I can't do anything in the situation, I just keep making it worse, fuck. And Solomon just appreciates the fact that he still looks at him as, you're just Solomon, you're not God or king like everyone else is looking at Solomon. They want him to do these things. I'm curious what will be the final thing that'll push him. Maybe after the fight with King David, he'll finally realize, okay, I'm going to be the king, but I'm still going to try to retain my sanity. At the end of the day, with a wife, you know, pretty much Sheba will probably be his wife after a certain point, and his loyal Magi, maybe this will be the point that just pushes him forward. Okay, I'm going to do this, but I'm still going to hold my ground and be me. I don't know if I've said this before, but I will say it again just in case. I truly believe that Aladdin's obsession with tits comes from Wahid, whether, you know, we'll see a little baby Aladdin during Al-Mataran arc or something, you know, because again, it's not set in stone what's going to happen. But I truly believe that it'll be adopted from Wahid because he's the one that really loves him. And even his son in this chapter, which was real fucking weird and funny at the same time, that's probably where Aladdin gets it from. I don't know how. Maybe again, we'll see a little baby Aladdin running around these streets of Al-Mataran, but it will happen. I'm truly believing that that's where he got it from. And ultimately, some good progression in this one. We're going towards the final battle with King David. Solomon, he's trying to go overcome these doubts and having his friends. Ugo discovered the Rukh, even though he saw Black Rukh. Could that be Solomon's? Could that be Arba's, Sheba's, the baby within Sheba? Who the hell knows? But definitely an interesting catch, nonetheless, from Ugo. And we're just advancing towards the end. The chapter did feel, again, a bit cluttered with information. That's one of Magi's consistent problems. And ultimately, it was kind of like the big thing was, oh shit, Sheba's pregnant with Aladdin. And this definitely felt like the groundwork for future events, such as, again, Aladdin seemingly being so young. Maybe he's a lot older than what we perceive him to be, simply because, again, that magic that was used on his birth, maybe it stays intact because he's a miscarriage. You know, there's so many different things that you could go by with this chapter. So good groundwork, some good progression, overall huge revelation at the end. We finally got confirmation that at the very least, Sheba is Aladdin's mother. Whether she becomes Gyokuwen, whether there's a miscarriage and he's, you know, continues his growth via magic, we don't know, but ultimately at least we got that, and that's a big thing. Overall, I'm gonna give this chapter a 7 out of 10. It was a good chapter, good revelation, just very dialogue heavy, and ultimately it got some good progression towards the end, but you know, they're about to go into their final battle. But definitely I can't wait to wrap this thing up. Al-Mataran, it has its good parts and good bits here and there, but I'm definitely excited to see the finale of this and just see how everything goes down. But let me know what you guys think. First of all, what do you think about my theory? You think it's a possibility Sheba will have a miscarriage and then they'll have to continue his growth via magic, and you know, he'll just be a proxy? Or maybe it'll just be his Rukh that they capture after the miscarriage and then use that to create Aladdin. That's why he's the proxy. And overall, what do you think about Sheba being the true mother to Aladdin revealed in this chapter? Were you excited? Did you call it for the most part? I think everyone can say that Sheba looked like Aladdin, so it was a good, safe assumption that that would be his mother. And just overall thoughts of the chapter. But that's all I have for this review. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you liked anything I had to say or you enjoyed the video, drop me a like. I'd greatly appreciate it. I'm ForneverWorld, and as always, people, have an awesome day.